Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Building Critical Customer Support Tools in Retool. My name is Kent. I'm an account executive here at Retool, and I'll be your host for today. We put together this webinar because we've seen recently that Retool has enabled customers to ship support tooling much faster than they were able to before. Customer support is a particularly good case for Retool because support needs tend to change with every product iteration, and changes made in Retool can be done quickly, supporting this iteration. Today, I'm joined by our customers, Earnin and SaltPay, and we'll also hear from Retool itself about how we think about some of these challenges. Everyone we hear from today has, in the past quarter or so, used Retool to launch brand new product lines or build new support tools from scratch. Our agenda today will be a 10-minute presentation from each guest, followed by a Q&A where we'll have plenty of time to ask questions. We'll end promptly at 11 a.m. This event is being recorded, and it will be automatically emailed to everybody who has RSVP'd. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature in the bottom navigation bar on Zoom. Note that the Q&A feature is different than the chat feature. It'll say Q&A, and it just helps us keep track of your questions. With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Paula. Paula is a software engineer at Earnin. She's joining us from Colorado. Earnin is a financial company that gives you access to the pay you've earned when you want it. Earnin used Retool to launch their first customer service portal app for their WeWin product. Paula, take it away.
Awesome. Hey everyone, thanks for the intro, Kent. I'm Paula, and at Earnin, we're really excited to be working with Retool to build out better support tools for our agents. And for some additional background on Earnin, we provide a variety of financial services. As Kent mentioned, our most popular product is our cash out product. And this allows people to access their money as soon as they've worked. And so if you're someone who has an emergency or an unexpected bill come up, it can be really challenging to have to plan around a bi-weekly or a monthly schedule. And so this app allows people to access that money sooner, and it just gives a lot more flexibility so that people don't have to wait until payday to make payments or buy groceries. And a more recent product we launched is our WeWin product. And this is a product that encourages our customers to save. And so our customers can deposit money into what we call savings tip jars. And for every $10 they save, they can get entered into a contest where they can win money. And so it's a lot of fun for our customers because it kind of feels like a lottery where you select numbers in a drawing, and then you win based on how many numbers you match in the drawing. And for all of our products, we don't charge any mandatory fees or have any sort of subscription service. However, customers can tip if they want to support Earnin and support the community of members using our product. And something that I love about working here is that we do see a lot of positive impact in our customers' finances. So in 2020, 67% of our customers reported a drop in their overdraft fees, saving $58 a month, or roughly 2 overdraft fees a month. 84% experienced reduced stress during COVID. 66% saw an increase in their ability to pay bills on time, and 49% said they could afford a $400 emergency when they previously couldn't. And so in providing support to our customers, finances can be super time sensitive. So it's really important that we provide fast and reliable support to our customers. And so this is sort of the before state of our support tools that our agents have been using. And while it does support their basic needs for assisting our customers, it definitely does have some pain points. And so first, there's a lot of information, and the information is not necessarily organized in a way that matches the workflows of our agents. So they often find themselves kind of hopping around between all of these tabs in order to get the information they need to help out our customers. And because it's not immediately obvious how to use the tool and all of this information, we do have a longer onboarding process than we would like. And we also just experienced slower development in this tool. It exists in a legacy repo, and it also uses an old UI framework. And so it's just not the most fun experience for our agents or our developers to work in. And so some goals we're working towards are to streamline the views in the app, build with our agents' workflow in mind, so that they're not having to remember all of the sections that they need to check in order to help customers. And lastly, we just want to improve the developer experience and be able to speed up our releases so that we can keep up with all of the new product features we're releasing on a regular basis. And so Retool has been really helpful to us so far. We just started our contract with them in April. And so far, onboarding has been really quick and the development has been fast. We've had several engineers who wanted to try it out and just build out their own apps, and they've had a good experience so far. Something I personally love about this is that we can easily create mocks for agent feedback and iterate on them. So for building out our support tools, we have a team of just 2 engineers. So we rely a lot on feedback from our agents. And it's great that we can, when we're building a new feature, we can create maybe 2 or 3 different versions of that feature and have the agents actually log into dev, interact with it, try it out, and then give us feedback on what works and what doesn't work. And I find that to be a lot more effective than using just using wireframes. And last, it removes the need for maintaining a front-end code base. Earnin is a mobile-based company. So in order to use a service, customers have to be on the mobile app. And so it beyond our website, we don't have much need for regular web UI development. So most of our stuff is internal, and Retool kind of helps fill that gap so that we need fewer developers. And so just wanted to show you a demo. This is the first app that we built when starting with Retool, and it's to support that WeWin product that I mentioned earlier. So agents can come in here, search by user ID, and they can see the numbers that have been drawn for the contest that week. They can view any individual ticket entries and see what numbers have been matched for that contest. And at the top, we have some modals for specific tasks like granting referral tickets or assisting the customer if they want to create a withdrawal from their savings. And at the bottom, they can view transaction history in case the customer has any questions or if there are any issues with the transaction going through. And just to give you an idea, since that's just the first part we built out, this is sort of what we're working towards more long-term. And so at the top, we have these tabs that are kind of grouped by the most common questions that our agents get. And we definitely tried to pare down the information compared to what we have in our old tool. And you can see the WeWin app is nested in there. And then on the left, we have an overview section that will highlight the important statuses. And if there are any tasks that need to be addressed for the customer to be in a good state, we'll try to highlight that in maybe yellow or red. And for example, if there's a pending task, such as timesheets that the customer may have uploaded, the agent can come in here, click on it, and then just be taken directly into that task. So our goal is to have the tool do a better job of highlighting what might be wrong with the account so that the agent knows right away what they need to address. And so as we continue building out this tool and working towards migrating the functionality over, we'll be measuring our success in a few different ways. First is through agent surveys. After every feature, we'll plan on surveying our agents and ask what's working and maybe what's not working or needs improvement. And so far, we've gotten really positive feedback on the WeWin product or WeWin app that we created, which is great. And we'll also be looking at our chat handle time and training time for agents, and hopefully seeing that continue to go down over time. And last is reducing our development time, and that's something we've already seen. This first WeWin app just took us a couple weeks to build because we pretty much only had to focus on the back end, and then building the front end was really fast. Whereas if we had to start from scratch and build out our own front-end repo with custom UI, I think that would have been more on the order of months in terms of launching a new app to our agents. So we're definitely excited to continue using Retool and be able to better serve our agents. And that's it for me. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks very much, Paula. Nice to see those apps. I remember when we started working on them a few months ago. I think one thing that Ernan does that's really interesting is, as Paula mentioned, showing the team that's going to be using the tools how they're sort of developing throughout the process and getting their feedback, and so building the tools in the way that the agents need to use them. Up next, we're going to hear from Miguel, who's on the customer relations tech team in SaltPay. SaltPay is a UK-based fintech company focused on helping small merchants grow. SaltPay used Retool to launch their global back office, which they use to manage their customer requests, among many other things. Miguel, I'll turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
As Kent very nicely introduced me, I'm Miguel. I'm in the customer relations team. In customer relations team here at SaltPay, we have a tech team which is responsible basically for the systems that we're using and to empower agents with more tools so that they can satisfy our customers in the best way possible. So what is SaltPay? SaltPay is quite a young company. We started a year and a couple months ago. Our main purpose is to help the small and medium merchants. We're mainly focused on Europe, and our target markets is the 99.8% SMBs that are around Europe and are usually underserved by financial service companies. We're quite a young company, but our founders, they will come from Stone, which is a Brazilian company that's IPO'd in NASDAQ in 2018. So we're a young company with a lot of experience inside. Now we're starting our journey in Europe. We're an ambitious, diverse, and young team, and we really think big. And our main purpose is simply to improve the lives of the merchants. We say simply, but it's very complicated. The market structure is very complex, and it's a real battle. But we're working towards making things happen. We like to think ourselves as entrepreneurs, not employees. And there's a real focus on making the lives of the merchants and the world easier. As George Paul Lemon, which is a very successful businessman in Brazil, said once, dreaming big and dreaming small cost the same. So we dream big all the time. We're super ambitious, and our plan is to take over Europe in the next couple of years. So what we do and our products. So basically, we are integrating. We're in payment platform. We're building a payment ecosystem to help SMBs grow their business. We offer a variety of services from loyalty, delivery, and several different value-added services. And we are constantly building this ecosystem. We've grown quite inorganically through M&A. These are a couple of the companies that have joined us. These are their original names. Some of them have already rebranded to SaltPay and the SaltPay Group. You guys will see why this is important to how Retool fits into the picture. So basically, we're a lot of companies joining together. These are some examples of our products that we're offering merchants at the moment. And our main challenge, because we grew so inorganically, is we had different companies with different back offices. We had over 10 back offices. They had bad user interfaces, very slow. Some of them were literally built 20 years ago, so not user-friendly at all. And with the systems we had at that time, it wasn't possible to provide a good customer service, because the customer would wait a long time for us to be able to do basic tasks or to search certain things about them. And this for us is unacceptable, so we wanted to change. And then we had to make a decision of where our tech team should focus. Because we're very much in the beginning stage, we decided our tech teams should be focusing on our core products. So we wanted to save engineer time on building our back office, and that's where Retool comes in. It has allowed us to easily build apps and focus on our backends and building our APIs to communicate between our products, and then very easily build the user interface that we need to provide our agents. It also had some key features like SSO and the ability to do on-premises, which for us were a must. So that all of that together is why we chose Retool. This is our landing page. We call this the View CEOs, because we call our merchants our CEOs, and because they're the ones who are the boss and tell us where we should improve and what to do. So it's basically just a landing page where we have different search functions, and our agents can search and find our merchants. When they find our merchants, they go into their profile. You have several different data. I had to blur some out because they're real data. But you have different abilities from adding new outlets, closing outlets, all the fields, outlet details, DBA address, etc. You can all click and edit and real time have the changes. We on the top have different tabs, and all of this and the ability to use components allows us to have a global vision of our customers. Depending on the products they have, different tabs appear, and before that they had to search in our agents had to search in different back offices, and that made no sense and wasn't scalable. So these are just examples, and mainly our objective is to save our agents time, and this is an example of small apps that are very easy to build on Retool. This is to bulk close mids, so outlets. Here we can, and this was a task that normally when we had a merchant with several outlets that was churning, we had to ask the tech team to do it, otherwise it would be super manual for our agents. And with this, we can empower them with these simple apps that they can mass close mids and do things in bulk, which before was manual. And again, that took time for our agents. And when it takes time for our agents, it makes our customer wait longer, and we didn't want that. So after Retool, our agents now have access to more tools, so they're less dependent on other teams, especially on tech team, which our focus now is building products and shouldn't be firefighting and less time on the operations. That saves us time. It allows our agents to have a more global vision of our customers and do less manual tasks. All of this leads to us being able to provide a better customer service. And what's next? So we're working a lot on automations. A lot of the features we had that I showed before involved the agent in the old back offices doing several clicks, and here we just one button triggers several different things, and just faster and less manual for our agents. We're adding more products that have joined the company to Retool, and we're trying different workflows, just adding more features in general. And one of the things our agents recently noticed, and I personally had never thought of it, we're missing our brand color, so we also need to change that as well. And yes, that's it from me. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Miguel. We have a lot of good theming and styling features shipping right now, so that should support the adding the colors. Up next is someone who I've had the pleasure of working with for a while now. Alex Westrich is the head of support at Retool. I think everybody at Retool is really proud of this, what our support team is able to do for our users, and Alex and his team are really the ones behind the systems that we have in place to manage all of this. Of course, at Retool, we try to build as much as we can on Retool. And so Alex is going to share how some of our support tooling has grown alongside the platform. Go ahead, Alex.
All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, today I'm going to talk a little bit about our approach to support tools at Retool. But first, I want to talk a little bit about who I am and my background. Before I started working at Retool, I was actually a customer. I began using the platform in 2018. I was the most active user on the community forums because I genuinely enjoyed building apps in Retool, and it was kind of a hobby to help unblock other users. Towards the end of 2019, Retool sent me a t-shirt as a thank you. It's actually this t-shirt. And that sort of sparked this conversation about joining Retool to start the support department. Today, we've grown the support team up to 8 people, and we're planning on reaching around 14 by the end of the year. So that means that I've seen what it takes to scale support workflows very, very quickly. At the same time, I've also personally helped a few thousand customers with building and improving their own internal tools. So I'd like to share my perspective on that. Your tooling priorities are going to shift drastically as you progress from a team of 2 people to 20 to 200. As other teams grow, how you work alongside them is going to change. And as you expand into new markets, it's going to mean new cultural and compliance considerations. New features are going to mean entirely new categories of customer issues. And then there's the unexpected. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw many industries get completely disrupted. One of the things that I'm especially proud of is how Retool was able to help people spin up the support backends for products and systems that didn't exist the week before. So we've all been in situations where internal tools weren't up to the task. The areas where you are missing clear workflows are the ones where your team is going to be the least efficient. And from the customer perspective, I think some of the most frustrating support experiences are the ones where the representative you're working with clearly doesn't have the tool to help manage your request. So I'm going to share an example from when we reviewed our early support workflows because I think it's relevant at any scale. As our team and company grew, we built a lot of apps with very specific support functions. With a very small support team, context on how and when to use these apps was fairly easy. As the team started to grow, however, it became clear that these disjointed tools led to confusing workflows and more difficult onboarding. So here's one example of an old workflow. We sometimes have users who want to have their accounts deactivated. On the surface, this is a pretty simple request. You just get rid of the account, right? But the amount of fringe scenarios where this can cause issues is substantial, especially if you're considering the fact that we might want to archive either a single user or an entire organization. To avoid any issues, you need to check on up to 7 different things, which may or may not apply depending on the situation. Onboarding new hires on all of those considerations for a pretty simple and common request takes some considerable time and can still be error prone. What we noticed about this workflow is that we were running through the exact same logic every time. We checked the key data that was readily available inside our backend and made the same decisions for each type of scenario. That meant that the process could and really should be massively easier for our team to manage if we had a better tooling setup. This is what archiving a user looked like before. checking different parts of 4 different apps. And this is what that workflow looks like after. On our new dashboard, you click one of 2 buttons, either archiving an individual or archiving the entire organization. And it takes into consideration all of that institutional knowledge and business logic that we had to remember before. The impact of this one change is actually really significant in the amount of time that it saves day to day. And perhaps even more important for a quickly growing organization, the onboarding time is almost non-existent in comparison. You click one button. And that's just one of the many workflows that we built into this newly built support dashboard. We manage user trials, we update user profiles, organization settings, resource settings, and we can view all of our logs inside of here. And as we launch new features and product lines, it's quite easy to integrate that new data into our existing workflows here. So this change has definitely helped us define our approach to scaling internal tools alongside support. That specialized knowledge gets standardized, and it's significantly easier to onboard new hires when the workflows are easy and make sense. Our customers are continuing to receive a fantastic experience even while our team grows. And I really do believe that leveraging Retool to quickly evolve our internal tools as our needs change is what's going to enable us to scale the team to support 50 times the users that we have today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alex. Now we'll jump into a bit of a Q&A. We have a few questions coming in right now, so I will read these and direct them to the appropriate person. I think the one that has the most interest right now is a question from Carlos asking, I think he was asking Miguel, how long it took to build out those use cases. Miguel, roughly how long did these things take to build? I think it's a pretty common question people have about Retool.
So we actually signed Retool at the end of April, so everything was in the last month. The apps were super easy to build. I think it depends a lot on the APIs you have, and I think that's where it takes longer. But the apps itself you can build them in a day.
Thank you. Let's send one over to Paula. So Paula, how does Earnin manage your release cycles for your Retool apps such that Retool stays in sync with Earnin's backend?
Yeah, so that's something that we're constantly working on, just making sure that agents have all the tools they need to match our product releases. Typically, how it works is when we're coming up with a new product, they coordinate with support, and we determine what the needs are, what information the agents will require in order to answer support questions. And how we've thought about doing this is that we'll create a mock in Retool and present that to the agents, get their feedback. And once we kind of have a solid idea of what we want it to look like, the agents will begin training on that specific feature, because the training process and getting the information out to all of our agents can take a couple of weeks. And so then hopefully by the time that training has finished, we'll have the app mostly built, and so that it'll be ready for them to use. So that's how our process roughly works, and we just try to make sure that the release date is coordinated to our agents, is kind of coordinated with when the product is supposed to go live, or even ahead of when the product is supposed to go live, ideally.
There's another question here from John, and I think it would be interesting, although Devin answered it in the chat, to get both Miguel and Paula's thoughts on this, which is broadly, how do you think about training your team that'll be building in Retool to actually use Retool to build these support tools? Maybe Miguel, will start with you, and then Paula, you can answer after.
So training the team to it's very simple, and the help center has been very useful. So a lot drag and drop. I'd say if you have to do some transformers, etc., for the APIs, you do need maybe a little bit of coding experience, but still it's very small snippets that you have to create, so it's relatively easy. Our team who's been building it has had like coding background, so it's has been very simple for them.
And how about for you, Paula?
Yeah, I agree with Miguel. The onboarding has been really easy for us, and Retool has really thorough documentation. And so when we first launched this, I held a few like workshop sessions for our engineering team, just to give them an idea of how you can build a simple app. And then we have a shared Slack channel for any questions that people want to ask. And then we'll always just try to hop on Zoom calls if someone has specific questions about building. And we did create kind of some documentation on suggestions for in order to try to make the development consistent, like how to name API calls, how to organize queries versus transformers. And we also have all of our apps organized into folders. So only two engineers will touch the customer service specific folders, and all of the rest, the teams each have their own folder.
Thank you. Alex, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I mean, maybe you're the unique case here that you of course have the support team building out lots of tools on Retool.
Yeah, I would say that our development workflows, specifically building Retool apps, have evolved a lot, especially because we've been doing this since there weren't really that many options for how to build things inside of Retool, or as far as like how to promote changes. Sorry, am I answering the wrong question? Was this the how do we train people on building in Retool? Yes, I'm answering the wrong question. So I think that the support team gets a lot of experience learning about building Retool apps alongside customers. So it is sort of a unique experience in that we get kind of dropped into a lot of scenarios where people are already doing this. Depending on whether you're on the cloud or on-premise offering, your workflows will be a little bit different. But there are options in there that we recommend for either approach, either on cloud using the release feature to set up different live versions of an app so that you can work on different in progress versions. And then there's Git syncing between different dev, staging, production instances on the on-premise offering. We're also working on a few other things for protected apps, for promoting changes in a different way. But yeah, I would say actually training our team on using Retool is not one of our biggest issues. I'd say it's definitely, we get a lot of practice on seeing how things are done. And then we also spend about 20% of our time working on long-term projects inside of the support org, focused on improving support for our customers, improving our workflows, improving our internal tools. And a lot of time that involves building out Retool apps and just getting practice.
Makes sense. And within the context of training a team, quick plug for Reschool, which is developed by Retool support org to train people up with the amount of JavaScript or SQL knowledge they need to be able to be productive in Retool. You can find Reschool in our docs. I'll also have a link to it here at the end. There's a question from Lauren in the Q&A here about integrating this with Zendesk. Paula, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you explored integrating Retool into Zendesk. Can you speak to that at all, or that experience?
Yeah, so we haven't actually started on the actual implementation of that, but we're definitely interested in, it sounds like there's an integration where you can basically put a panel inside Zendesk and integrate a Retool app in there. And so that's definitely something we want to explore, where the agent might be able to just do quick actions inside their chat, that so that they don't have to actually navigate into the tool. And I know that would be helpful to us. We just haven't had the chance to start integrating it yet.
The same here. We also use Zendesk, and we're looking at, and we played around with the integration, and it's also one of the reasons why we chose Retool, is because of how easy it is to integrate with Zendesk.
Miguel, I think there's a question from Brad about integrating all these 10 different backends you had with Retool. How much work did you have to do on your backends in order to make those front ends on Retool work?
So it's been a big focus on that. All our different products, we're focusing a lot on building the APIs so that they can properly communicate between them and with the tools that we're using in customer relations. One of the reasons why we have a tech team in customer relations is because they're involved in the meetings of all these different product teams, and that's to make sure that they develop the APIs that we need. And normally they work on 2-week sprints. So normally if we need an API, we put it in the backlog, and in 2 weeks it's done.
Just having a look at the questions here to see which one we have next. Paula, this question from Hart actually might be interesting to get your thoughts on. Do you tend to build your Retool apps on top of REST APIs, or are you integrating directly with data sources, directly writing SQL and data sources?
Yeah, for us, we've decided to only use REST APIs. We're a bit hesitant to use SQL queries just because we want we only want to be using APIs that have gone through a code review process in another repo or in one of our backend microservices. So that's something we may potentially open up later, but for now we've only been allowing REST APIs.
What about you, Miguel?
The same here. We just use REST APIs.
I think that's a pattern that in general, many Retool customers use, potentially reading directly from databases, but then only writing back through APIs. So that's often a safe way to do things.
Exactly.
Alex, could you maybe touch on Christopher's question here about managing Retool development with multiple contributors? I know that in a lot of the support tools, you're taking advantage of modules. It might be interesting to hear how modules can help that development workflow.
Yeah, actually, we do like to use modules quite a lot for this because it lets you break up a project into smaller pieces, and you can define clear inputs and outputs to what each person is working on. I think that both in Retool and in building things from scratch, development workflows on the same part of a code base are generally a little difficult to work on. But yeah, in the support team, we use modules when we are having multiple people working on a project. But oftentimes, building Retool apps is a small enough amount of work that one person will work on the full scope in a day or two.
Maybe another one for you, Alex. Some kind words about your team, Ben and Victoria, who I know both do excellent work. The question from Christian here is, any tips or guidance to onboard maybe non-tech folks or less technical folks onto Retool? What would you think about there?
Well, I would also plug Reschool, which is something that Victoria actually is the lead on for writing out sort of this guide on ideally, or it's specifically targeted on non-technical or less technical users. So if you already know about JavaScript, And SQL, we don't actually touch on the APIs in there because APIs are going to be pretty specific to whichever one you're using or your team. But yeah, it's live on our documentation. It's a really good overview of sort of like core concepts in those technologies, and then also specifically how are they used in Retool with examples for like common use cases and common syntax that you would use.
I think that's most of the questions here. I'll maybe leave it for one more minute. Any last minute questions you'd like to pose to any of the guests today? I know that Devin has been answering in the chat, so forgive me if I've missed any, but feel free to repost if I have. Well, then with that, maybe we'll end with some announcements. A few things I wanted to touch on before we stop. As I mentioned, or forgive me, I mentioned the Reschool, but we also wanted to plug Retool's community, which we launched officially this week. So if you're interested in learning more about Retool, being a developer on Retool, I would recommend checking out retool.com/community. We're also launching Retool's monthly hackathons. And so our first one is on Monday, June 7th, 0 to 1 productivity hackathon. If you'd like to learn more about that, check out hackathons.retool.com. And also we have our next lightning demos, modernizing outdated industries, coming up on Thursday, June 24th. We don't have a link for that yet, but we can definitely send that up. Have a lot of really interesting companies going to be presenting there as well. And finally, SaltPay, Earnin, and Retool are actually all hiring. So if you're interested in working at any of these great companies, please reach out to either somebody here who was a presenter or just on the jobs pages of the respective company. Thanks very much for the time this morning. Have an excellent day.